I appreciate you joining today. And, obviously you've you spent a good portion of your career as a professor, currently at East Carolina University, where you've been there for, it looks like, over about 5 years now. Tell me more about yourself. Tell me how you got started in IT and, your journey. I'd love to hear that.
Everything in my life, I've come in through the back door. So I came in IT through the back door. I was working at Columbia University, who's been in the news recently. And I was working in a library, a schlep job. And they bought but I've always been a tinker, so they bought a word processor. A word processor, not a computer, a word processor, electronic word processor. And everybody was scared of the thing. So they said, well, Cam, can you take a book and figure out how to use it? I said, yeah, piece of cake. So I figured it out, and that led to me getting some training gigs in PC software. Like back in the day, it was Lotus 1, 2, 3. You're of an age where you should remember Lotus. And things like WordPerfect and things like that. So I trained, and I moved to Atlanta. I got to the IT field. Fast forward, was in the IT field for 21 years in a variety of roles, manager, programmer, DBA, etc. And then shifted to teaching because that's what I wanted to do. It just, there's a story behind how I got into it, but it's, I just was asking a student. I went to a black college to visit a colleague, and a student was there graduating the next day. This was on a Friday. It was back in that, I guess, 2002, 2003, years ago. And the young lady was graduating the next day, and her degree was CIS, Computer Information Systems, and she had a good GPA. I asked her what a GPA was. It was 3-something. And she said, well, is this degree going to help me get a job? And I said, what kind of question is that? I couldn't believe the question. Why are we I was at Georgia State in the computer science, the CIS program at Georgia State. We never asked that question. That question was answered for us profusely. So I'm 22 years in teaching and not looking back. 21 years in teaching, not looking back. Seven colleges and community colleges. 5 universities, 2 community colleges, and this semester I had 3 courses at ECU and a community college and my boot camp. So that's where I am today. That's how I got into this.
So tell me, what are some of the courses you're teaching? Are you teaching courses around mainframe? And I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing to me, right? Because there's just it's so hard to find skilled new talent, right? When it comes to the mainframe. So tell me about what you're teaching.
Mark, I'm going to answer that question about my program. First of all, I've been doing this for 20 years, almost 20 years, right? Same thing. Been here at the same place. So listen to me very carefully. Anybody that tells you they can't find young, new mainframe talent is just not looking hard. They're just not looking hard enough. I'm sorry. Because the solutions are there. Now, they might find the solutions unattractive, or they may think they have a better solution. If they have a better solution, they should implement it. But I've got a solution that's cost effective. You're not going to bring new people on board any cheaper than the way we do it. I promise you. Put the pencil on it. Put your pencil on it. You're not going to be able to do it any cheaper. And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Tell me how you do it then.
Yeah,
I got to learn this.
So no. And I'm here to teach. That's what I'm an educator. So there's 2 ways, and understand there's all kinds of dimensions to this stuff. So we look let's look at the ECU dimension, the curricular, what I call the degree dimension, right? So that has courses. It's a 4-year program. So, I have an intro course there where now understand these courses are 14, 15 weeks, and all of these students, first of all, they're not all IT majors. Secondly, all of them are not going into IT per se. So that's the demographic you're working with. So I've got to try to glean the people that are interested in the technology from this class, train them up, and not bore the heck out of the people that aren't interested in it. So that's the dimension. Now, the boot camp model can take any form the customer wants. The last 2 that we've had have been 12 weeks, 3 months, 15 to 20 students. We start them out with this time we did a week of agile scrum. We did a week of agile scrum first, then a week of ZOS fundamentals, then a week of JCL. Not a week, whatever we need. Then JCL, ISPF, TSO, then VSAM, then Kix, then COBOL, then DB2. 12 weeks. And when they come out, I'm gonna tell you who they are. They are ready to join. Now they have no experience. Some of these people have not written a line of code before this program, But what we've done is we've taken this big, huge program that my colleague used to work with on a Wall Street company. I'm not going to name the company, Wall Street company. This was a production program. So he anonymized all the data. So that's the program we use to train on. So we have 1 through 5. Now this is the boot camp. This is not the semester. This is the boot camp. We have assignments 1 through 5, which builds up to assignment 6, which is the final solution. And then the final solution is a whole huge program. And then the actual project is to break that program up into multiple sub-programs using subroutines and copybooks and assembler. That's how we do it. And they come out, they can do that.
And do they use kicks too? They use kicks. They get VRAM.
Yes.
They write assembler.
Yes.
They write COBOL.
Well, wait a minute. Now I'm gonna slow the roll a little bit. Yeah. They don't write assembler. They don't write it. What they do is they call a little assembler program that Jeffrey wrote. But they understand every instruction in that program. They understand what that program does. They didn't write it, but they understand it.
Yeah, I was going to say, because assembler in college for my computer science degree was probably, next to differential equations, the worst course in my computer science class.
I didn't take diff EQ, but I did take assembler, and I agree with you. It was hard. I think I got a B. I know I didn't get an A. And I would have, if I got a C, I would remember it because I remember all my C's from undergrad. So I'm pretty sure I got a B, but it was a tough course.
I got a C minus to for some reason I couldn't get my head around it. I can't, even today, I don't think I can't get my head around it. I love Java. I love C. I love everything else out there, but assembler is just.
So let's take on it because this is important, Mark. And you are a professional at a mainframe company. Well, not a mainframe, but a consulting services company. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. We need to be real clear about what's going on here because I agree with you that assembler is something that an undergraduate student in normal cases is not going to be able to master. But my colleague, Jeffrey Decker, who's been teaching this at Northern Illinois for the last 23, 24 years, his program is legendary. And he learned from Rob Rainey and Michael Stack how to teach assembler. So the way they teach it is not the way anybody, so it's doable. And they can come out with proficiency, not just understanding, proficiency. That's what they do. That's what they do. It's important.
We'll blame my professor then.
No,
I don't know who that is. I can't remember my professor, but we'll blame him.
I mean, he or she probably hadn't taught it for 20 years like Jeffrey has. I mean, you get better. This is one of the few things you get better the more you do. I don't care how old you get. As long as you have your cognitive faculties, you're going to get better at this every year if you want to.
So that's interesting. So who's your, the boot camp, right? You said 15 people, I think, right? So around 15 people attend the boot camp. Who, are they working for a company? Are they, and then they've got a job afterwards? Or is it?
No, I'll give you the complete detail of the boot camp because it varies. The last two are kind of similar. There was a company, a bank that sponsored the entire thing. And so they paid these students. And so every student there, if they cleared the hurdle, they had a job, but they had to interview. The job wasn't guaranteed, but if they did okay in the interview, they had a job. Okay. This one, they knew they weren't going to take in as many people as we were training because they were given subsidies. So this is, let me explain to you. I don't want to leave out any details that's important. This is 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. Okay. It's serious. You got to be committed. So over the course of that, we can build up pretty much anything the customer, the client wants. So in the one we just had recently, we trained 20, but they only needed about 13 or 14. We had some attrition. People are always going to drop out because it's tough. It's tough. And it's, it's tough. But yeah, so that in this model, these people got, and again, I don't know what the subsidy is. I think the one in 22 was $300 a month. I don't know what this one was. And I think this was done by, see, I'm much more in the dark about the second one and first one. I was involved in the selection process of the first candidates. I wasn't involved in any of this. I've had no contact with the hiring managers. All I know is what the criteria I've been given. So I think this is a consortium. I know the students from my class are going to multiple companies. I think one of them is an insurance company. I think one of them is a hospital. But I'm in the dark about the actual companies.
No, and that's good. And you said they come from different backgrounds too, right? I mean, I think one of the challenges, right, in the IT field, or the IT industry, I should say, is this notion that you have to have 4-year college degree, or you have to have a PhD or a master's degree to really be successful. And you're starting to see companies like IBM and even Accenture, where I used to work, right? They're getting a little bit more lenient around those types of requirements, right? So are some of these folks that you're training, are they coming from different backgrounds? They don't have an IT background, it sounds like, some of them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
They go from having degrees in computer science to never having written a line of code, never taken a program class in their life, the whole spectrum. And they all get it done. They all get it done. Because this thing comes down to one thing. How badly do you want to do it? Your background, because your background when it comes to this, because nobody has background in this. Nobody has background in this. So your background is kind of irrelevant, right? When it comes to mainframe, because nobody has background in it. Are you willing? One of my biggest success stories, I've told the story many times, is a woman, she was non-traditional. I guess she was in her early 40s when she took our course. She attended, it was for 3 weeks, 2 days a week, 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Saturday. That's all she had. All she had. No more than that. Had never written a line of code, had never taken a technology course. She was by far the best student in that class, by far. She answered every technical question, performed every technical task effortlessly. I'm not going to say effortlessly, but flawlessly, because she listened and she paid attention. She listened and she paid it. That's all it takes.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, right? I mean, there's so much demand for these skills out there right now. As soon as you graduate, after 12 weeks, you're in demand, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of people sitting on the bench with a ton of years of experience, right?
And look,
great.
I'm semi-retired. I got enough money to live on. I'm not hard pressed for cash. Mark, I should have boot camps booked up for the next 2 years, and I don't. Now I always have some in the works, but when you tell me people are having a hard time, my phone, it's ringing. My phone should be ringing off the hook. This is the solution. This is the solution. Now, it's not going to work for everybody. I defy you to bring me a business case that I can't give you a cost-effective solution for. What more can I do than that? That's all I can do.
I get it, right? I mean, and you're right. There's so many people complaining about talent in the market, right? I mean, I was even one of them. And one of the challenges is finding good talent. But yeah, I guess, that's why we're on this podcast, to get the word out there.
Well, I gotta commend Jeannie. I gotta commend her. I've seen her in this space for a number of years, and folks like her and you're part of the solution. So I'm optimistic now. I'm optimistic. I may gripe and complain, but I'm optimistic because I've never seen more energy and activity around bringing new people to the platform than I've seen now. Now, it's not nearly enough. Don't get me wrong. It's not enough, but it's by far more than it has been. By far.
Yeah. Jeannie's she's a unicorn, right? I mean, she's a first ever woman founded software company on the mainframe.
Not surprised. That surprised me one bit.
Yeah. That's impressive, isn't it?
The only thing that surprised me though, I've been teaching this for a long time, and you may have seen me in LinkedIn. I'm adamant about women are better at mainframe than men are. I'm sorry. I've been teaching them. Women do this stuff better than men. I don't know if it's because they're women. I don't know. It may be just luck of the draw. It may be completely a random analysis. I don't know. 20 years, thousands of data points, women are better than men. The reason I said I don't know why women aren't in more leadership positions. Now, they are in leadership positions. Don't get me wrong. Jeannie is one of them. But they should be running this game. We should be asking them for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Men should be going to women. Can we play? Because that's how much better they are at this than us. I know. I've seen. I'm not making this up. I've got data to prove what I say. I've got data to prove it.
Well, my parents are probably going to listen to this podcast, and they started dating as mainframe developers. So I think they're going to argue who was better at mainframe.
Yeah, no, they may have a good point. I mean, because now they may have a good point. I mean in general. And I'm not trying to say that the best male program mainframers are not the best women mainframers are not better. But it's an egalitarian. This is a meritocracy. There's no racism in mainframe. There's no genderism in mainframe. Either you can write the code or you can't. Either you can do it or you can't.
100%.
Bottom line.
100%.
Everything else is irrelevant.
So tell me too about the demographic, right? The race demographic that comes to your courses as well, right? Because I think that's an important thing. And I noticed that you're part of you mentioned you went to this historic Black college, right? And university, right? Tell me about the race demographic.
Sure. No, I'll be glad to, it is multifaceted and convoluted, but I'll try to cut to the chase. The historically black colleges have been given short shrift for 100 years. And by that, I mean money that's from a statutory standpoint, the federal government and their respective states say they are supposed to get every year, they have not been getting it. To the tune of like $500 million in the case of Tennessee State, $500 million in the case of 4 HBCUs in Maryland. So fast forward. So we're playing on a very, very uneven playing field, right? Very uneven playing field. The reason Mainframe is a perfect fit for an HBCU is because the mainframe space is a meritocracy. Unlike the IT place, unlike the IT space at large, which is replete with racism, ageism, sexism, genderism, disableism, IT field at large is replete with those things. I've not seen it in the mainframe. Now, there are people with certain attitudes in the mainframe, but the nature of the work is such that you cannot let any of that stuff get in the way of this work. If it gets in the way of this work, it's got to go. So teaching at the black colleges was kind of a no-brainer for me. I don't understand why the rest of them don't see that. Maybe they're just not as smart as I am. But it's been a great experience because the kids there, by and large, you don't want to overgeneralize about anything, especially when it involves human beings. But these people, it's factual that they were from a less affluent demographic than the kids at NC State or Duke, unarguable. And they were just hungrier. And I just love working with them. And this stuff is, I mean, if you want to learn this, the path to learning it is so clear that mastery of it is not hard to demonstrate. At one point in time, and this might get me in trouble for saying, because somebody's going to call me a lie, but I've got the data. I mean, everything I say has data behind it. At one point in time, we had 85% from my department, not from my college, from my department, 85% of the new hires at Bank of America were graduates from my program at one point in time. Now, that didn't last very long. It lasted about a semester because somebody looked around and said, wait a minute, this room is a little too dark. It's a little too dark. But that's how we roll. And
and is that your boot camp, or you're talking about Eastern Carolina University?
No. That was at North Carolina Central. So I've taught it.
North Carolina Central.
4 HBCUs. So let me run them down for you, just for the record, just to keep the record straight. The first one was North Carolina Central University in Durham, North Carolina, about 8,000 students. The second was North Carolina A&T State University, which is the crown jewel of HBCUs in Greensboro, North Carolina. I was there for 9 years. I did adjunct stints at Tennessee State in Nashville and Alcorn in Lauren, Mississippi. And all 4 of these HBCUs, the result was the same. Students came out getting jobs, getting mainframe jobs. Because guess what? If you can do this stuff, somebody's going to pay you money to do it. Guess what?
Exactly.
So that works.
Exactly. The mainframe powers the world, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, that's why I used to be stand on a soapbox about this. I don't even know, because I think my last interview was, but we don't need, the mainframe doesn't need visibility. It doesn't need understanding. It doesn't need love, because the mainframe is like air. It's necessary. What the mainframe needs is people. The mainframe needs is people. That's all it needs. It doesn't need to be loved. It doesn't need to be adored. It doesn't need to be understood. It just needs people. It just needs to be fed, and it will do what it's supposed to do. It will do what it's supposed to do. And that's my thing.
One topic that continually comes up, and it's because we're a new mainframe software, we're innovating on the mainframe, right? And, our software is 99% mainframe software, right? We've got some APIs and connectors that run off the mainframe, and the reason it comes up is because we often talk about, the way that, cloud technologies have been kind of forced, or distributed solutions have been forced to run on the mainframe to, make the mainframe work better with distributed. But there's a lack of innovation on the mainframe, it seems like, right? And people don't understand some of the benefits of being able to run or use Python on the mainframe, Java, and those types of things. So are those things that you're teaching in your courses?
Could not agree with you more. Look, I don't teach mainframe. I teach hybrid cloud, which includes mainframe. I teach hybrid cloud. And you can't have hybrid cloud without including mainframe. If you teach hybrid cloud without talking about mainframe, it is incomplete. Your discussion is incomplete. Now, you certainly can have a cloud discussion without excluding mainframe, but you can't exclude the core business applications of the human race from a cloud scenario. You can't do that. It's not real if you do. If you don't have the business there, it's not real. So, and what I am seeing, and you're a professional, so you may have seen it, you may be able to validate or invalidate it. I'm seeing a little gentle pushback on some of these cloud promises that people are starting to, that have been made to people Like it's going to save you all this money. It's going to save you all this complexity. And that has not been the case. Now, no, look, don't get me wrong. Cloud cloud wins. It's the paradigm. But it's not, when you say cloud, you include mainframe. I'm sorry. Because almost all the cloud technology was born on the mainframe.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah. So, no, but to answer your question, that's what I do teach that. Yes, I do teach that. Now, I will tell you this, though. That is kind of a double-edged sword, Mark. I'll tell you why. Because I've got colleagues that all they want me to use is IDZ and Visual Studio, Visual Code. And I use those. I use them. But that's not where the industry is today. Okay. If you get an entry-level job today, now it may be different in your shop, and it's different in some of the ISVs, but it's not different in Bank of America. I know because I've asked, not different in Wells Fargo. If you don't have a good skill set in ISPF and TSO, you're going to have to acquire one pretty soon. So just learning those interfaces, while I'm not opposed to it, that's not really teaching mainframe. That's not teaching mainframe, in my opinion. You can learn that stuff later. But don't get me wrong, you should learn it. We need to keep this platform moving. We need to keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you guys have, IBM gives you guys a couple mainframes to use for, to do all your development coding, your sysprog. I mean, you're teaching sysprog. You're teaching not just application development, but sysprog skills and everything.
I love your questions because you are allowing me to discuss things now that the public should know about, but they just don't. So, we have access to several mainframes, right? We have access to the mainframe at Marist College's mainframe, which is an IBM machine. And so that's why I teach the majority of my courses. Most of my courses have been taught on that. Here's the problem. You asked me, are we teaching sysprog, like RACF. You can't teach RACF on the Marist system because they're not going to let you, right? You can only teach what they had to give you access to. And I understand it because that physical box is their production machine. That's their production machine. That's where they do their business. But I've got all kinds of relationships. So we've got the Open Mainframe Project. And I mean, ask Jeannie to talk about, discuss the Open Mainframe Project. You guys need to join up with us, man. Because we got some things going on for you guys.
I'm in there.
Oh, I'm
in there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We're in there for sure. Absolutely.
Our mainframe that Broadcom donated us is going to come online Q2 very soon, in a matter of weeks. So there's that system. So what we're going to do is, you're going to submit a proposal for a project to get space on the machine. So it's going to work out very well. Now, also, I have a colleague, and I got to give Velocity Software, Barton Robinson, some props here. Velocity Software is a company that writes performance software for the mainframe. Most of their work is on VM, and most of their code is in assembler. Barton has provided ample infrastructure, so we have a ZOS guest that we can use that he pays for. I mean, IBM he doesn't charge it to us because he can't charge. We can use it for academic purposes as much as we want. And that's a guest that has mainframe hardware behind it. So with that, we can teach security. We can teach networking. We can run VM on it. So that's how we're doing. Well, we're hitting it from all angles.
That's awesome. No, that's great. And so how many graduates do you have on every year, like this time of year? I guess it's graduation. How many graduates do you have that are pretty strong when it comes to the mainframe?
Oh, that's another thing, pretty strong. So, and let me give you the big number first, and I'll give you the commandos after that. So, I usually have about 50 students a semester. So I graduate 100 a term, usually, sometimes more, rarely less. Of those, I can have maybe 4 or 5 commandos a semester per class a semester. 4 or 5 that are hardcore and want to do this. So this semester, I think I have 4 or 5 people that got internships. But it's not. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Are they do they get the? I mean, is it hitting home how powerful the mainframe is?
To my students, not by and large. To those commandos that I'm talking about, they get it. There are always students that come. Oh yeah, this is great. We get it. But that's not. I don't want to be too critical of East Carolina because I'm very happy there. And at the HBCUs, nobody was getting jobs in the tech program. And then so mainframe bailed them out. That was something for them to get. And then students got jobs in other platforms because the companies came around it. At East Carolina, they got 4 or 5 healthy programs. The students get jobs. So I got to compete with cybersecurity and analytics and all this other stuff, but I don't mind because we're always going to get our share. Mainframe's not afraid of anybody. But no, so it's not the same demographic. East Carolina is not HBCU. It's a large regional university of about 32,000 students. And I'm happy there. But yeah, it's not the same. But when I'm at the HBCUs, everybody wants a job. And usually they almost all get jobs. So it depends on the demographic.
All right. So I got a question that I ask all my guests, right? And when I get questions, when people ask me, what do I do now? What do I, who do I work for? And I tell them I work for a mainframe startup, right? Most people say, what is the mainframe, right? And so I always got to do a little bit of like shock and awe on how powerful and how important the mainframe is, right? And so tell me, like, what's one of your best stories about that, that you remember about the mainframe that, you want to share with people, right? Something that, one of the things I share is, the fact that almost all credit card transactions go through the mainframe, or almost all reservation systems for, the airlines go through the mainframe, right? And in the hotels and everything else, right? So what's one really interesting fact about the mainframe that you want people to know?
Well, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people don't know that our day-to-day lives are completely dependent upon COBOL. They don't understand that. And the line I hit them with, if the mainframe goes down, the world goes down. If the mainframe doesn't work, nothing works because it doesn't.
Yeah, I think most people are obsessed with the cloud and how prevalent the cloud is, but there's kind of a sleeper out there, if you will, the mainframe and what it does with airlines and processing credit card transactions, and runs the federal government for most governments and state, local governments, right?
Absolutely.
Around the world. Right?
And I got the litany of bullet points that I hit them with, credit card transactions, airline. I hit them with that. But the bottom line is, the mainframe doesn't work, nothing works. We all sit home. We sit home.
Exactly. All right, tell me more. Right? What am I missing? What's a good question or something you want to share that I didn't ask you?
Why do I do this? Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it. But how I got into it, I love it. I can't tell you why. I mean, without going through all the morbid details of my life, I was a very unhappy person for a long time. Probably could be categorized as clinically depressed, but I wasn't diagnosed. So, I don't know. I just know I was miserable. I know that. But I was raised in a family that always tried to work within the community. And at a time in my life when my life really didn't seem like it had any purpose, any meaning, I ran into a bunch of raggedy kids who came from west of nowhere and had a whole pot full of nothing and wanted to do something with their lives. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know why I was chosen to do this, but it has been extraordinary. It has been indescribably enjoyable, right? When you have people whose lives, you've affected. Because let me be real clear. All of my students that are successful now, they would have all been successful if they had never met me, because they had what it took. When I met them, I didn't give them what they had that made them successful. At best, all I did was open a few or point to a couple of doors. I didn't open the door I just point. The door's over there. You got to open it. But that's why I do it, because, and I guess one of the reasons I was so unhappy is that when I found what I see is my purpose, what I'm sure is my purpose, you don't know how you live without doing that. You don't know how you live before that. You don't know how you got through day to day. Because every day, I know I'm doing something for somebody else. Like this summer, I've got a gig in Wilmington, 2.5 hour drive, but that's okay. I like to drive. Teaching middle school children technology. And right now, I don't know what I think I'm going to hit them with some web stuff and teach them HTML and JavaScript, things like that. Just something to keep them busy. But that kind of stuff, that keeps coming into my life. And I told the lady, I said, well, I'll do it for nothing. She said, well, we got a grant. We got to pay you. Well, they give me $3,000. I get $3,000, which is, please don't throw me in that briar patch. You're going to give me $3,000 to work with a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds who want to teach them something that they're trying to learn. How hard is that? How hard is that?
No, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like you found your purpose, right? And I'm happy your purpose is with Mainframe too, teaching the world more about Mainframe, because it's definitely needed for sure, right?
And I mean, the thing is that a question. Ask me about. So you could ask me when going forward, and yeah, what is my grand plan going? Well, really, what I'm trying to do, because the point of fact is, even today, the historically black colleges are the only demographic of schools that teaches Mainframe consistently. Only one. Even though they don't do it as much as I would like for them to do. John C. Smith is trying to teach it. They're talking about teaching it. North Carolina A&T still, where I taught, still teaches it. Tennessee State teaches it. Maryland Eastern Shore is trying to teach it. And somebody else in North Carolina is talking about teaching it. So I'm going to work with those schools. See, I have problems with universities at large, but specifically with HBCUs, because I detest the academic orthodoxy. I detest. Next to religion, the academic orthodoxy has done more harm to the human race than good, right? So because of what we talk about smart, and there's no smart or dumb. All there is ability and effort and instruction. That's it. It's not smart or dumb. And we're individuals. You are who you are. You do what you do. There's no label on that. Label is completely subjective. It's completely subjective. 100 years ago, LeBron James would have been in the field picking cotton. Didn't matter how good a basketball player he was. Didn't matter. Nobody cared. Different context. So I'm going to try to shift the context. And I've got a couple of administrators. You don't need the whole world. You just need a couple of administrators. I got a dean at John C. Smith. I'm putting their name out there, so you know, I'm not. There's nobody's going to get in any trouble. And I've got some administrators at other schools, and I'm just trying to get them to just move the ball. And look, if I die before this stuff happens, I could care. I mean, when I leave here, I'm gonna be trying to do the same thing I'm doing today, advancing Mainframe. Why? And you didn't ask me this. When I say why I do it, I got an education to educate black people. I'm adamant about that. I'm clear about it. To educate black people. Why? Because we were not being educated. We were not being educated. And I'm going to do that until I die. I'm going to do that until I die.
That makes sense. All right. So your mission, right? Your mission is to really go tackle this problem with the HBCUs, right? And go out there and develop not just a program at the ones you've already done, but expand this program. I mean, I think that's brilliant, right? I mean, that's a great mission, right? And like I said, I tend to agree with you. I don't know if you need to be successful in most professions. You don't necessarily need the four-year education, right? Or you don't need to have a traditional education, right? I mean, it can be whatever you want it to be, right? And I think it's great. You got the boot camp and you got the HBCU thing going on as well.
Well, but here's the thing. I'm not going to let you give accolades to the companies for recognizing this. They had no choice. The math is against them. They had no choice. There are not enough degree people to go around. It wasn't like a decision, oh, we're going to decide to do this wonderful thing. No, there's not enough people. There's not enough people with degrees. So, and the thing is, I've got 5 college degrees. I believe in formal education as much as any human being on the face of the earth. I believe in it. I believe it. I believe you should get education. I don't believe in going in debt for the rest of your life to get an education. I think there's something inveterably wrong with society that insists that their young people go into debt for the rest of their lives just to get an education. That is not a civilized society. Sorry, that's not a civilized society.
I mean, honestly, Cameron, this is great. I've really enjoyed this. I always get to learn on these, but I feel like I learned quite a bit from you today. And I really enjoy your enthusiasm and your passion for it, right?